What is overactivation of trauma memory? What are the potential causes of it? How it happens? And potentially how we could prevent this from happening. Hi, my name is Patricia. I'm a counseling psychologist registered with HCPC here in the UK, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about why potentially, because of the overactivation of trauma memories, people they might not even engage in therapy, or they might discontinue the therapy prematurely. So first of all, the overactivation of trauma memory can happen in situations when those trauma memories they become overactivated, they become even more vivid, even more intense with the person. So in those situations, the person will become overwhelmed, not only with seeing the images, but also with the emotions and physical sensations that this memory recalls for the person. So in those situations, when the trauma memories they become overactivated, the person very likely will become overwhelmed with uncomfortable emotions and also with very uncomfortable physical sensations in their body. And in therapy, we can recognize this happening when someone suddenly becomes really upset, or maybe really angry, frustrated, agitated. When people they're gonna start having this really strong physical sensation. So some people they might actually want to vomit, some people they might start suddenly shaking, other people they might actually lose the ability to speak, and then at the end all these overwhelming emotions and physical sensations they might actually lead to dissociation, because all these experiences they're going to be so uncomfortable that the person not going to be able to actually handle that, and that's when they disconnect the body from the mind. In those situations when someone becomes overactivated in that way, if they don't dissociate, very often they might just leave the room, for example. And it's also very likely that at that point they might decide that they don't want to come back to therapy, because they might just lose trust that the therapy can actually help them. When we work with post-traumatic stress disorder using the cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, that mainly focuses on restructuring memories, sometimes it can happen that the person might become emotionally overwhelmed and physically overwhelmed in a session. And obviously that is not the end of the therapy. We always try to avoid situations like that by psychoeducating the person about post-traumatic stress disorder, about the symptoms, about what's happening in the mind, in the body. So in case if we do the work and if the person starts feeling certain emotions, they can recognize that, so we can then prevent them becoming overwhelmed with those emotions. Another way of how we try to prevent or avoid the overactivation of memory, for example in therapy settings, is by spending a really good amount of time in treatment on teaching and practicing grounding techniques, which aim to actually ground the person. So in case if the person will start feeling overwhelmed with any emotions, they can actually step back from that, and by using those grounding techniques. And those grounding techniques, they can be as simple as maybe holding an ice in the palm, or maybe smelling some oils with really strong fragrance. So obviously for different people, different things they're gonna work, and there's so many different grounding techniques. So we try variety of them, and then the person chooses like 2 or 3 of them which they work best for them, and that's what they're gonna be practicing and then also using in those situations when they start feeling overwhelmed. And that in turn then will help them to actually prevent going into those states where they feel that they have no control over their emotions and body sensations. One of the reasons why some people they might be more prone to maybe overactivation of trauma memories, it is because they actually might be really good, they have a better capacity to actually work with images. It's the same as some people that actually they have very less capacity to work with images. So when in therapy working on the post-traumatic stress disorder, using the imagery rescripting will actually trigger much more vivid images for those people than for maybe someone else who has very average imagination. So how potentially we can know that some people are more prone to the trauma memories being overactivated in therapy settings, for example. So some potential indicators that might be when someone is saying that they have photographic memory, so they're remembering events by having images in their mind. Another indicator, it could be when someone is saying that when they're remembering things, they're preoccupied with very small details. And also people who are an artist, potentially they might have a better imagination, more vivid imagination than someone else. And obviously that then potentially could contribute to them being more sensitive to reliving in therapy settings. Another reason why some trauma memories can be overactivated during, for example, treatment, it could be to do with the meaning of the trauma. So for example, if someone suffered trauma where they actually thought that they're gonna die because the situation was like that, so maybe, someone stabbed them, or maybe there was a car accident, for example. So that trauma reactivated a lot of fear in them, and they really thought in that moment that they're gonna die. So the fear was extremely high. So because now every time when they go into that memory, that reactivates the strong fear that they are about to die. Another example, when trauma memories that can be overactivated, it is in situations when trauma was reoccurring. So if we think of an example of someone who has been maybe trafficked, let's say for 5 years, and the abuse was actually happening on a daily basis. So it's not only one incident, it's not only a car accident, but it's just something reoccurring. That means that the person will accumulate so many different memories that they're not gonna be able to ascribe a date, a time. They're not gonna be specific context to each of those memories, and they're also all traumatic. So they just become a huge jumble. So when the person starts recalling maybe one of those memories, all other memories, they're gonna jump in. And that is when the person can become emotionally and physically overwhelmed. So our day-to-day memories, they will have always certain references, so they're gonna be a context, and that's actually quite comforting. So we're gonna know more or less the time when it happened, we're gonna know maybe people that we met there, the location. Where trauma memories, they don't have that. And on the top of that, the trauma memory will be traumatic as well. They're gonna be fear, they're gonna be sadness, maybe they're gonna be anger. I do actually have a full video where I talk about the differences between the trauma memories and day-to-day memories. So if you're interested to learn more about that, you can just head to my YouTube channel. Another reason why some trauma memories that can be overactivated during the treatment, it could be to do with the meaning that the person gives to their memories. So some people, they actually might believe that the fact that they are struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, it is the punishment from God, because they believe that they are bad. They believe that maybe they have done something wrong in their life, and that's their punishment. So if we think of an example where maybe there was an accident, there were two people involved, both of them, they were injured badly, and because of the injuries, they were unable to move. One of them dies and one survives. The person who survives develops post-traumatic stress disorder, and then they blame themselves for surviving and not saving the other person. They think of themselves as being selfish, as someone who doesn't actually deserve to live. They might even think of themselves as being criminals for letting someone lying next to them to just die. So that kind of meaning that the person ascribes to the trauma can actually be very overwhelming, and when we start doing the reliving work in a therapy, that can actually then lead to those memories being overactivated. So yes, that will be it for today, and if you found this video any helpful, then please like it, subscribe, and make sure you're gonna hit that notification bell, so every time when I upload a new video, you're gonna get notified, so you're not gonna miss out on any of this really interesting content. And I'm gonna see you in the next one, and thank you. Bye bye.